Welcome to this edition of Security and Compliance Weekly. On our show today, we are joined by the newest member of the Security Weekly, well, technically it's the Cyber Risk Alliance family, Mr. Adrian Sanabria. In our first segment, we're going to get to know Adrian a little bit and find out why he's here, what he's planning on doing at CRA. And in the second segment, we're going to figure out if it has any application to our own listening audience here on Security and Compliance Weekly. So join us as we continue to tear down silos and build bridges on Security and Compliance Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production. And now, it's the show that bridges the requirements of regulations, compliance, and privacy with those of security. Your trusted source for complying with various mandates, building effective programs, and current compliance news. It's time for Security and Compliance Weekly. The question is simple. Have any of the systems on my network been compromised? The answer is harder than it should be. Enter AI Hunter. Active Countermeasures has automated and streamlined techniques used by the best pen testers and threat hunters in the industry to create AI Hunter, a network threat hunting solution that does the first pass of a hunt for you to identify systems that are most likely to be compromised and scores the results on a scale from 0 to 100. You can then research those systems in depth with AI Hunter. Focus your valuable time on the systems that need your expertise with AI Hunter. Sign up for a personal demo today at securityweekly.com/ACM. Cyber risk and compliance automation is finally here. Legacy GRC systems cannot simplify the complex use cases and deliver powerful automation that cyber teams need. CyberSaint's integrated risk management solution ingests data from your existing tech stack, dynamically lighting up controls using patented AI. Leverage your expertise and showcase business value. Let your risk and compliance solution work for you. See why the most forward-thinking CISOs of the Fortune 500 support their teams with CyberSaint. Maximize your cybersecurity program today. Visit securityweekly.com/CyberSaintSCW. The average cost to respond to an insider threat is $11.45 million. That's a lot of reasons why a functional insider threat program must be a core part of any modern cybersecurity strategy. To protect your organization's sensitive data and meet compliance requirements, you need controls in place to deter, detect, and disrupt insider threats. With ECRAN system, you can meet control requirements imposed by compliance mandates all within one insider threat management platform. Get your free 30-day trial at securityweekly.com/ECRAN. That's EKRAN, and fulfill your compliance requirements.
And welcome to episode 52 of Security and Compliance Weekly, recorded live on November 17th, 2020. I am your host, Mr. Jeff Mann, and joining me today are my co-hosts, Mr. Scott Lyons and the illustrious Josh Marpet. Gentlemen, welcome.
We were totally pre-gaming today's call with, the things that are up here.
The counter is already ratcheting up, because when I say PCI, anyway, before we jump into it, do have a couple announcements. First, join Amit Barakat, the co-founder and CEO of Perimeter 81, and our own Mr. Paul Asadorian, the illustrious Paul Asadorian, for a technical deep dive into the problems inherent in legacy VPN technology. Together, they will explore solutions for the modern workforce and how momentum toward perimeterless architecture is helping redefine the future of cybersecurity. You can register now by visiting securityweekly.com/perimeter81. Also, Security Weekly, in partnership with the Cyber Risk Alliance, is excited to present Security Weekly Unlocked. This is going to be happening on December 10th, 2020. It's a one-day virtual event, and it wraps up with the 15th anniversary edition of Paul's Security Weekly live on YouTube. And unfortunately, it's all going to be virtual because of the daggone blankety-blank COVID. At any rate, sign up. View the agenda, sign up for free, register for free, securityweekly.com/unlocked. All right, let's jump into it. We are joined today by the newest member of the Security Weekly CRA family, Mr. Adrian Sanabria. Adrian's been in the business 20 years or so, and he's kind of seen it from multiple sides, starting in IT, jumping over to security, working as a practitioner, working as a consultant, and even he's done some work as an industry analyst. So, Adrian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to be here. Glad to see you all again. Haven't seen you all in person in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I was thinking, I forget where you posted pictures. I guess it was on our Slack channel, and you had a picture of us sitting out at the smoke pit at DerbyCon, which is where I think we first met. I forget what year it was. DerbyCon 6 or 7. Do you remember, Adrian?
I think that was 2016 or 2017.
Yep. I remember you had just given a talk, and you came out, and I asked you what it was about. And if memory serves, I remember. I say I remember, but that's questionable these days. I think you gave a talk on buffer overflows. Is that right?
Nope. No,
what was
I was the one in 2017. My big thing was killing the pen test.
Oh, then it was older than that. Was it race conditions? It was some sort of old, 20-year-old technique. And I was like, why are you giving a talk on that? Was it race conditions, maybe?
No, I've never been accepted to give a talk at DerbyCon. I submitted a few times.
Well, then I must be mistaking you for somebody else. Never mind. Let me just say PCI so I can take a drink here real quick.
Adrian, I got to ask, killing the pen test. Explain.
Yeah. So, did a big campaign on that back in 2017. And really the goal was to see if we could do something that was more valuable than the pen test, because most companies don't get a whole lot of value out of a pen test. Somebody comes in, breaks a bunch of stuff. And generally, the reports on the symptoms of the problem, not the root causes. The investigation never really seems to go that deep. We're starting to see some of that change. They call them different types of assessments now. They're purple team engagements, or there's all these hybrid things now where the pen tester doesn't just blow stuff up and leave. They stay and help. And I think that's really so my goal, I started a company called Savage Security back then, was to see if we could create something that still checked the penetration testing box, but got a lot of stuff fixed at the same time, delivered more value to the client. And we were pretty successful with it. We sold it a number of times, and enough to refine it. And I did a couple talks, where I go through the process of that. And really, it's using the same amount of money, same amount of time to do a lot more than just a pen test. And we do that by using a lot more automation. A lot of any given pen test, the hours you have to work on that project are spent either waiting for a scanner to finish or writing the report. And by kind of eliminating those or at least making those steps of the process more efficient, we found you can spend more time with the client, and get to some of those root cause issues, and get some of those addressed.
Maybe it was right memory, wrong topic, because I know we've had long discussions about the efficacy of pen testing in the past. But tell us a little about your background other than that talk, and basically, how did you end up where you are today, and ultimately, where are you today? What are you doing here?
Sure. So just wrapping up that topic, there's actually, I think, an Enterprise Security Weekly and a Paul's Security Weekly, where we went pretty deep on the whole kill the pen test topic and what I was talking about there. And the latter was kind of a follow-up and had a bunch of people on there, bunch of, I think John was in there and Dave Kennedy.
Yep.
Some other folks weighed in on that. So if you want to find out more about that, look back at 2017. Look up "Kill the Pen Test" and you'll find some resources on that.
We've actually got some stuff.
So
in
yeah,
the Discord.
it's one of those.
The pen test is dead.
The pen test is dead. Long live the long live the pen test type things. But yeah, really, it's it hadn't changed in 20 years, and I think that's a lot of security. Our industry is old enough now that we need to go back and check and see if our best practices really are best, or if they're just stuff that we've just learned to live with, and have become mediocre, not best.
Oof. Are you saying that pen testers are mediocre? Are you saying that pen tests is mediocre? Come on, man, be controversial. Go for it.
Well, no, pen tests are, generally they're, it's a Disney trip for the pen tester, but they're the only ones that really get value out of most of them. So yeah, worse than me for the average pen test, certainly. But yeah. And I mean, whether we're talking passwords, whether or not you should change passwords every 45 days, that kind of stuff, a lot of it needs to be revisited. And we need to inject some science into it, actually look at the outcomes, put together some metrics, and see if we're really helping anybody with some of these products and services.
So unfortunately, most pen tests these days are just point in time, right, Adrian?
Yeah, that's the other problem. Pen tests are expensive. A lot of companies can't afford more than one or two a year, so they're very point in time. And for a lot of companies, they turn into an extension of their vulnerability management program. Which the real question there is, if the pen tester's coming in every year or twice a year and finding stuff that hadn't been patched. That's a very expensive way to find out that you've missed some patches. It's there's tools for that. You need to hunt down and figure out, why they're finding stuff that you didn't find, that automated tools should be finding for you. And in some cases, like just to give an example here, one of the services we built at Savage Security, we spent a lot of time just looking at how people had set up security tools in their environment. And we found 100% of the time, vulnerability scanners were misconfigured, for example. There were typos in IP lists, and the actual IP ranges that they entered. In one case, a company was doing web scans against 14 of their domains, and 13 out of the 14 were misspelled. They're missing the M on .com. And because
misspelling
one
like
of those
that
entries
save time.
One of those 14 wasn't misspelled, so that's why they were getting results back. And because they were getting some results back, they didn't realize they had a problem. So yeah, all kinds of just typo errors, like simple stuff, that's causing some of these companies to miss stuff and get breached. If you study breaches like I do, you find a lot of this stuff where it's just too little time was spent setting the stuff up. Nobody did any validation of the configurations, and left some big holes open. Like Equifax not renewing the SSL certs on the SSL inspector. 18 months with bad certs. As soon as they update them, that's how they found out that they got hacked. So, yeah. All right. So, Jeff wanted me to go through my history a bit. So I started out. Okay, I'll pause there. I've said a lot. I should let you guys comment a bit before I
tell us what it was like when you was a baby. In the interest of time, why don't you fast forward to 20 years IT security, yada yada yada. What are you doing now?
Okay, well, I'll give you the 30-second spiel here. Let's see if I can cut it down. So I got my start. I was lucky enough that here in Knoxville, where I'm based, is where Elevon has their main operations. And Elevon, at least when I was there, was like the 6th largest payment processor in the world. So great place to go if you want to learn security. An enterprise with credit card numbers flying around all over the place. And yeah, I started out in IT there and quickly moved into security. I knew pretty much from the beginning that I wanted to get into security. And in fact, I started doing incident response from almost the first week that I was there, just because there was nobody else there that knew where to even start with it. So they let me try. I did a decent job with it, and I kept it and became chief incident handler and got to wear most of the hats in security, from building policy to talking to the new hires, security awareness stuff, letting them know I did not want to read their email and not to do anything stupid at work. And it was a good solid foundation. I spent about 8 years there before moving into consulting, where I was a pen tester and a PCI QSA, and obviously working for a large payment processor. Somebody's sleeping on the ding there on the PCI counter.
Scott.
But
No. I got it.
So I was there when I was at Elevon, and I was in the security group when PCI 1.0 came out, and we were struggling to hit that October 2005 deadline, and it was rough on everyone. And I took that experience. I really wanted to be a pen tester, so when I was looking to get hired as a pen tester, they asked me if I knew PCI, and I thought, hey, if that helps me get my foot in the door, absolutely, I'm your PCI guy. And
Ding.
In hindsight, I kind of wish I had kept that to myself, because I ended up doing, mostly compliance work. Well, I did pen testing too, but not nearly as much as I wanted to. From there, moved on into the analyst industry. So industry analyst. And it's kind of funny when we say analyst, we should really say writer or researcher or something like that, because the title looks exactly the same when you're writing about the industry for a media publication as when you're, doing security ops in the enterprise. So titles are useless. And, but that was an interesting move for me. I went to 451 Research and got to learn the business side of the security, got to learn the investor side, got to talk with a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, VCs, very interesting getting to look at the industry, getting paid to look at the industry from kind of a 10,000 foot view, and then getting to dig into some of the details and stuff as well. So that was kind of a career shift for me, and that was kind of crucial in leading me to where I am today. So after 451, I started my own company. I've already talked a bit about what we were trying to do there. We were trying to reinvent some of the consulting services within the industry, see if we could do a better job there than just the typical pen test. Did some interesting work there. Got acquired by a vendor and spent a couple years on the vendor side. And that brings us up to today, where I've come back to the research and analysis side of things, back to the media side. And really excited to get started here on a few cool projects, which I guess we'll give you an exclusive on today.
So let me ask you a question. One of the things that you were saying is that you got like a really good 10,000 foot view of how all of this comes together and works, right? If you were to pass on some of the, I needed to learn business knowledge to advance my career. If you were to pass on some of that knowledge, what would a couple of kernels be for people that don't normally play in the business world, but they're security people?
Yeah, so not too much, honestly. I'm not going to say that there's anything essential there, but if you deal with procurement a lot, if you deal with vendors a lot, if you find yourself doing a lot of proofs of concept and things like that, certainly there's some lessons learned there. Just how to how to seek out companies that are going to be able to get you where you need to go with their products. And really that's what I've joined CRA for, so that's to make that easier on buyers. So I guess it makes sense to just go ahead and make that announcement. So I'm going to be running a lab and doing product testing. And so we're going to take what SE Magazine has built on for years. They've had some product testing, and to be totally honest, I've never been a huge fan of it. So getting a chance to kind of remold it in what I think a product testing lab should be is really exciting for me. And yeah, it's going to be my main jam here at Security Weekly and CRA is testing those products and trying to make it easier for people to buy them. But yeah, certainly it's interesting. I'm not sure if there's anything that's essential that you need to know about the VC side or business side, but there's a few things we could touch on.
Well, now would probably be a good time to pause and ask you what we like to call the hot seat question, because I think this will be especially important as we understand how you're approaching your new role here. So basically, our hot seat question,
Fire away.
because this is a show on security and compliance, is where do you fall on what we like to call the security versus compliance continuum?
Yeah, so as far as, if one's bullshit and the other not, like that?
No coaching. It's whatever you answer.
Yeah, so I think compliance and regulation is hugely important, and we've seen that in consumer level products, and it goes for enterprise as well. I think anybody who's really dug into an enterprise security product has had kind of that wake up moment where you realize it's not as slick and shiny and on the inside as it is on the outside, as the marketing makes it out to be. Yeah, and it's really, so far it's been whatever people want to do, and we've seen that in the tech world with Twitter, Facebook, Google, Microsoft being able to operate with little to no rules, basically making up the rules as they go, and yeah, it doesn't always go to a good place. So I think we're kind of late on some of that, and it seemed like California was leading the way for a while, and then it moved to Europe. And they started leading the way on regulation and compliance and things like that. And I think you always need some dose of that. It needs to be, maybe compliance is the bitters. If you're thinking of a mixed drink and the proportions there, maybe it's not the juice, maybe it's not the booze, maybe it's a smaller portion, but it's a very important portion of that mixed drink. I think it does have to be there to make sure that stuff gets done, because we can't trust we can only trust businesses to act in their own self-interest, right? And as much rope as we give them they're going to take.
Interesting perspective. So, Josh, Scott, question?
I'm sorry.
And that goes for external business, external vendors.
Or is everybody over on Discord?
Right?
Oh, man. So, we're talking about penetration testing. Discord. I typed in the GIF search thing on Discord, I typed penetration and hit enter and went, oh, dear Lord. And people are just...
And now everybody's doing it.
Oh, my God, it's bad. Like, it's just bad. There's oh, dear God. Anyway, no, that was great, Adrian. Yeah, totally awesome.
So now maybe we should talk PCI a bit.
Ding. There we go. Okay, so honestly, I think that you've had a fascinating career, Adrian. You've done the security side, you've done a bit of compliance side, you've done the research bit. Now you're a total media whore. I mean, no. You work for a media company now, as do we all. And I think that it's, number one, I'm really happy about that. You're one of those amazingly smart guys that we happen to know. I think you bring an amazing amount of intellectual ability to this media group. And I'm really, really, really happy about that. Just on a personal note. And not that we're short of it. I mean, just because we have Paul Esadorian, it's not like we're short of intellectualism, Okay, a little bit, but and Paul's on Discord.
He might be watching today.
He's watching today.
Yeah, he's totally watching today, so I had to bust on Paul.
It's what we call a career limiting comment.
I'd
don't
like to
get
think
paid
he's watching
for this.
Adrian more than he's watching us. Just saying.
Yeah, but a lot of people see it.
This is true.
I really appreciate that you're here at CRA, and I think you're going to be incredibly valuable. And this is good stuff. So I've got to ask you. You've preached the end of pen testing. You've preached the end of point in time testing. You've preached process above all. You've preached that's terrifying on Discord. Thank you, Whiskey. Holy crap!
Just minimize it.
Oh my God!
Just minimize it.
Oh my!
That's I can't even watch. Wow!
You can't stop watching.
Can't stop it with
eyes up. Eyes up, Josh. Eyes up.
If you're not a part of Discord, you're really missing out.
My eyes are up here. But I think it's fascinating that you're so very process oriented, and that has crept out into all the aspects of all the things that you do. And I'm curious, where do you see? For me personally, I see process orientation as more of a compliance feature than a security feature or trait, if you will, if you know what I'm saying. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
So what do you mean when you say process orientation?
Whenever I talk to you, we get off on one of these tangents on, XYZ topic or whatever, you're always talking about how you need to understand the root cause, and then you need to understand how to deal with it, and you need to have a process in place. And for whatever reason, whenever we talk, we start talking about process under different names, policy, process, procedure, whatever. But, it's fascinating.
Those are all synonyms, Josh.
Yes, they are. I'm so proud of you, Jeff. The Hooked on Phonics course is good for you, Jeff. It's good for you.
So back to Adrian bringing some intellect to the show. Go ahead, Adrian.
Well, I mean, not having process is kind of like going grocery shopping, bringing stuff home, making a meal, and not having any silverware or plates or glasses or anything. Like you've missed a critical piece there that you need to be able to feed your family, to eat there. And when we analyze breaches, I sorry about the metaphors. I love metaphors. I'm always going to reach for one, but you always see process. People in process are the bits that are missing out. Of course, vendors have a lot of marketing money, and we see a lot of what they say, and for them, it's always going to be, oh, they were missing a product, or the product they had was junk. Ours can do it better. But in that consulting service that we put together, and in my consulting history, and in my pen testing experience, it's almost always misconfigurations, systems people forgot about, that are outside the policies and the patching cycles and stuff like that. Those are the pieces that get you in trouble. Again, to use Equifax as an example, nobody was updating the certs on the SSL inspector. People looked for struts in the environment but didn't know how to use the tools correctly. They literally missed struts because they didn't use a recursive flag on a static a SAS tool, static code analysis tool. They only searched the current directory, and struts was one directory deeper in the file system, and by not using the recursive flag, they missed it. So yeah, a lot of people like to say, they didn't patch. They fell over themselves trying to find struts in that the week or 2 weeks, I think, between them knowing that there was a critical issue with struts and them getting hacked. And they did everything they could. But the people didn't have the skills. The tools weren't configured correctly. Budget-wise, really, on the tool side of things, they were fine. And that's what you find over and over is these companies already own everything they need. It's that extra work to glue it all together, to make it useful, to make sure you're not getting 1,000 alerts more a day than you have time to look at. That polish, that work that you have to do internally to get these tools useful and working correctly, that's the part where everybody, gets a little lazy. and doesn't do that last bit of work that they need to do, to avoid these things from happening. So yeah, people and process. I think that's, if you go back through breaches, that's where it falls down. But
how many pen test companies? Let's go to the testing side of this. How many pen testing companies don't have proper process? Don't have we're going to go break stuff, and then they write it up, and some of the report. Some companies
ask a pen testing company for their methodology, and see if you get something. See if they have anything at all, first of all, and second of all, see if it's copied and pasted from somewhere else on the internet.
I mean, or worse.
It's probably better than it used to be. It's been a while since I've taken a close look at other companies' pen testing output. But I'd be willing to bet that still a majority, maybe more than half out there, is just, that pen test is going to be what the pen tester knows and what they're good at. And those are the results you're going to get. If they're good at web app attacks and testing, then you'll get really good results there. Maybe not so much on the cloud server network side of things, and vice versa. Every pen testing shop I've ever been in, you have people that have better skills in one area than another. So it's not only a point in time test. It's based on the level of skills and the personal methodology of that one tester. So that's where one of the big pushes behind, these crowdsourced bug bounty type approaches that we've seen, where to either replace a pen test or accompany a pen test, they say, hey, maybe it's better to have a group of people with different skill sets come at it, and it's not a silver bullet fix to it, but I think there's some truth there. There's some valid opinion behind that.
Well, let's do this. I wasn't thinking that we were going to end up talking pen testing today, which is not a bad thing, but let's, Josh, Scott, and we can invite Adrian back. Let's agree to have our next compliance topic episode be penetration testing. We can drill down on this even more. I have a few opinions myself, as you might suspect. Want to take a break real quick. Come back. We'll keep talking to Adrian, and I want to drill down more into what he's doing, especially how it might apply or help the security and compliance audience out there. Particularly, and this is to give you a heads up, Adrian, how do we take what we've just been talking about in terms of the lack of emphasis on process, and how do you apply that to what you're trying to do with vetting products for us in the future? So think about that. We're going to take a break, be right back, and we'll take up the conversation again.